Well, look, I'm good friends with Elon. He was good enough to turn up and surprise me at my space launch. And I'm good friends of Jack Dorsey, and I was an early investor with Jack Dorsey in Twitter. So I'm not going to get drawn on who I would like to see win this war. A very different kind of war. I would much rather, that all of us were concentrating on how Ukraine can be helped. Ukraine, I've just had a good friend just come back from Ukraine. There are receptionists, going out to fight this war for us without body armor on, and they haven't got the basic necessities, so we have just got to sort of galvanize our countries to spend just a little fraction of the billions we spent on COVID in making sure that we win this war with Russia, and that the Ukrainians are able to fight it for us, and we need to support them fully, and we've just got to be very careful not to get bored with what's going on in Ukraine and get distracted by a Twitter war or something. The Ukraine war is so critical. Otherwise, we could end up seeing Russian troops in Poland and other parts of Europe, and God forbid, we'd be into a third world war.
You make a very key point there, that we are just more than 50 days now since the renewed invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and it does seem to sometimes have that danger of falling out of the news cycle, which is why having voices speaking out is so key on this. Given you were talking there about support there for the attempts to stop the Russian invasion or push it back, what do you make of the US actions so far? Do you think it's been enough of a response from the US government?
I think that whatever they're doing, they should do tenfold or 20-fold. They should listen to what President Zelensky says that the Ukrainian people need, and make sure they get it. I think it's worth America remembering that Ukraine is the breadbasket of the world, but it's also got all the key minerals that the world needs. If it falls into Russia's hands, Russia would be able to stick a gun at all our heads and effectively blackmail us for decades to come. This is a war that has to be won, and if it takes some billions in armaments to win it, we've just got to spend it, and therefore I think when I hear announcements of another billion in armaments, it would be much better if it was another 10 billion or 20 billion. We just got, they're willing to fight 24 hours a day on our behalf, and we just got to make sure they're properly supplied.
And it is quite extraordinary that we have got to this point of just talking about weapons and supplying weapons. Of course, NATO having a front and centre role at the moment. And to some extent, Sir Branson, we've got to this point, some would say, because of the way that diplomatic efforts in the lead up to this invasion failed. So we want to talk to you a little bit about communication, diplomacy and the global world order, because the more we speak to people now, the more we hear about the shifting geopolitical axis, with more focus on Russia and China doing things a different way. What does this mean for you in terms of hope for the future, in terms of geopolitical, diplomatic communications between the West and powers like Russia and China?
Well, look, I think the one other positive thing that's come out of this is the way that European countries have rallied together with America and with Japan and with Australia once again. So, I think that's a positive. And I think it's also, worth remembering that Russia is able to cite the Vietnamese War and the Iraq invasion as excuses for what they're doing. And we've made dreadful mistakes in the West as well, but that still doesn't excuse the nightmare that they're bringing upon a sovereign country of Ukraine. So I think we've got to make sure that that in future decades that we use our diplomacy to try to avoid future wars like this. That when this war is over, that somehow we reconvene the United Nations of 1945 and try to work together just to make sure that we don't ever have a situation like this again. But in the meantime, we just have to win. We have to win this. We have to win this war. I mean, it's just we cannot have Russia coming out on top, and that takes time and boldness by all Western leaders.